many women come to me saying, my doctor says I'm ovulating, but we still can't get pregnant. Dr. Morris, what do we do? If that's you, it doesn't mean your body's broken. It just means we need to take a deeper look. We need to dive in and figure out what's going. And today I'm going to share with you 2 of the silent reasons which you could be ovulating and still not getting pregnant and what you should do next. But before we dive in, I just want to remind you, make sure you subscribe to my channel, like this video so you don't miss out on the next one because it's going to be good. Anyways, let's dive in. So the first reason that you might be ovulating but not getting pregnant is due to a luteal phase defect. So your luteal phase is the time between ovulation and when your next period starts. That's usually about 12 to 14 days. But when you have a luteal phase defect, that window of time is shortened, and most commonly, progesterone levels are too low to sustain implantation. So we need to dive in and figure out what's going on there and how do we support your body. So this matters for conception because progesterone prepares the uterine lining to receive and hold that fertilized embryo. And if progesterone drops too quickly, then the embryo can't implant, or an early pregnancy loss may be experienced even before you would get a positive pregnancy test. So one of the ways that you may know that this is happening is that your luteal phase is short. It's less than 11 days. So again, the time you ovulate to the time you start your period is less than 11 days. You might also be experiencing spotting before your period starts. And then lastly, you may be experiencing more PMS symptoms. So that may be irritability, cramps, headaches. When estrogen is unopposed, so when you have estrogen and not enough progesterone to balance it, we call that unopposed estrogen, and that's going to give you more PMS symptoms. But I would say probably the biggest red flags are that your luteal phase is shorter than 11 days or less, and you're having spotting before your period starts. So one of the ways that I always explain this is you would want to plant a tree in topsoil, not sand. So you have your uterine lining, and estrogen is the hormone that dominates the first half of your cycle. And that's like laying down bricks in your uterine lining to make it very strong and sturdy. And then the progesterone comes through like the little mortar between all the bricks, and that's what makes it strong, right? So you've got estrogen laying down the bricks, progesterone as the mortar. And what happens if we don't have enough progesterone, the uterine lining is just not stable and strong. It's more like sand than topsoil, right? And we want to implant our embryo into topsoil, not sand. Just like we wouldn't plant a tree in sand. It's not going to live. It's not going to be have the nutrients that it needs or the water it needs. It's not going to be sturdy. It's going to fall over. Kind of the same situation. So to give you a better idea of exactly what's happening in the body, if we ovulate on day 14, start our period on day 24, let's say. So that's going to be a 24-day cycle. That luteal phase is only going to be 11 days. So you ovulate on day 14, you have intercourse, you conceive, the sperm and egg meet, you have an embryo formed. It takes 5 to 7 days for it to travel down into the uterus from the fallopian tubes to implant into the uterus and start growing. So if it takes 7 days and you ovulate on day 14, that puts us on day 21, right? And then your period's going to start on day 23. But your uterine lining doesn't shed, just like drop of a hat, now we're going to shed and bleed, right? The uterine lining is preparing and breaking down and degrading for days before you actually start bleeding. So if we don't implant until day 21, but our period starts on day 24, that uterine lining is already going to be breaking down and be starting to shed. And that uterine lining is going to be weak. It's going to be more like sand when implantation happens because there aren't enough days in the luteal phase. We need to stretch that out another 3 to 4 days. So that is a luteal phase defect. That is most commonly from low progesterone. We always want to check progesterone on peak +7. So the day you ovulate, +7 more days. And you want that level to be over 15, ideally. Anything under 15, I'm starting to have conversations with my clients about supplementing progesterone as a suppository, which you would need to get from your OB. If this is you and you're wondering what you need to do next, I would consider just start by tracking your cycle. Start by seeing how long is your luteal phase? What day am I ovulating? You can do that with just OPK, ovulation predictor kit strips that you can get at the pharmacy. That's pretty inexpensive. You can also track cervical mucus. You can track your basal body temperature. I think basal body temperature is the trickiest to track for most women. So I recommend just getting some inexpensive OPK strips from the pharmacy, get an idea of when you're ovulating and see how many days is your luteal phase. You could also ask for peak plus 7 progesterone. It's very important, again, that they draw that progesterone 7 days after ovulation. So if your progesterone 7 days after ovulation isn't above 15, then you know we've got to do something about this progesterone. Either the ovary isn't producing enough progesterone after ovulation, or potentially you're in a stressed state and cortisol is coming in and stealing progesterone, or the building blocks that are made, the building blocks that are used to make progesterone are the same building blocks used to make cortisol. So cortisol, if you're stressed, is going to steal those building blocks, and so your progesterone level will go down. So again, I really recommend, as always, working with a provider that can really dig in and help you address the root cause and figure out what is going on in your body and why you have a luteal phase defect. So the next thing that we're going to dive into is silent insulin resistance. So insulin resistance means that your cells don't respond well to insulin, causing your body to make and produce more insulin to manage the amount of blood sugar that you have in your system. So even if your cycles are regular, but your insulin is elevated, that can interfere with the quality of ovulation and hormone balance, your egg quality essentially. And so this is really important for conception, because when you have high insulin, this can cause high androgens. So your ovaries have insulin receptors on them. So when you have high insulin, it comes to your ovaries and it hits these little receptors, and that causes your androgens, so testosterone and DHEA, to elevate. And that can disrupt egg quality and also your cervical mucus. But it can also trigger some subtle inflammation in the ovaries and the endometrial lining, the inside of your uterus, making it harder for implantation to occur. If you are thinking like, oh, maybe I have silent insulin elevations, or maybe I want to know that, some symptoms that you might notice are sugar cravings, fatigue after meals, some stubborn weight loss, especially in the trunk, around the stomach and the hips. Skin tags can be one, acne on the jawline, hair loss on the scalp, kind of like mal-patterned baldness, or excess facial hair growth or chest hair growth. Those can all be symptoms or signs that you might have elevated insulin and elevated androgens. So if you want to dig into the labs, I would recommend asking your provider to order a fasting insulin on you. I would like your fasting insulin to be no greater than 5. That's kind of the mark that I'm using with my clients. Now, the conventional range of insulin goes up much higher than that, I think in the 30s potentially. So in a conventional world, if your insulin is 3 times 5, they're still going to tell you it's normal, but we like to see insulin below 5, even if your glucose is normal. So you might have a normal glucose, you might have a normal hemoglobin A1C, but still have elevated insulin. And that just means that your body, or the pancreas, is being required to produce more insulin to keep your glucose stable and keep your body's regulation of sugar stable. We don't want that, because that elevated insulin, again, is going to stimulate the ovaries to produce more androgens. This is kind of a PCOS-ish picture. It takes more than just insulin resistance to have PCOS, but sometimes women can have lean PCOS. And so we think of PCOS as often excess weight for women, but there's many types of PCOS, and lean PCOS is one of them. We're not all textbook. You may be thin and still have elevated insulin, and we still need to do something about that. So if you are in a state where you know that you have insulin resistance, or maybe you go and get your labs done and you find that you have insulin resistance, I would really encourage you to put close on your carbs. This is something that I talk through with my clients a lot, is we need to eat carbs with fat and protein. So if you're going to eat a piece of toast for breakfast, you definitely want to eat some protein and some fat with that, right? So put some bacon or some avocado on that. Anytime you're eating carbs, just like add a fat and a protein, and really just try to reduce your intake of refined carbs. Movement is great. There's a lot of research that shows walking for 10 to 15 minutes after meals reduces insulin. You need to walk at least 30 minutes a day. Support your liver health. This is where excess hormones are processed and regulated, and also regulates blood sugar. So again, just to kind of recap, if you're ovulating but you're not conceiving, it doesn't mean there's no hope. It just means like there's something deeper, and we need to figure out what that is. So I would really encourage you to start tracking your cycle, make sure that your luteal phase is 14 days, have your progesterone drawn, have your provider check your fasting insulin. These are things that a lot of providers overlook. Even in the IVF clinics, it's very rare that they're actually testing for fasting insulin. So have your provider do that. If you feel like you don't have a provider that's on board with that, you can always order your own labs through my Rupa store. So there will be a link to do that in the comments below this video. But if you want step-by-step help interpreting your labs, fixing the root cause, knowing exactly what you need to do, I always invite you to reach out to me. We'll drop a link for the fertility formula. You can book a free fertility assessment call by clicking on that link below. And my team and I would be really excited to have a conversation with you, support you, make a plan to help your body heal and take it to the next step. So as always, I'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode of Prescribing the Truth. If you loved our chat, you can find me on all the socials. Come say hi on Instagram at dr.NicoleMorris. And don't forget, I drop exclusive content on YouTube every week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Also, I've got to tell you, if you are in need of high-quality, research-backed supplements, check out shopdrmorris.com for my full line of third-party tested, USA-made products. My Prenatal Plus is top of the line for fertility support, and if you've got little ones, grab a bottle of Kids Complete too. Lastly, if you and your husband are trying to conceive naturally without IUI or IVF, my team and I would love to support you, pray with you, and walk this journey with you. Just head over to drnicolemorris.com. That's Dr. Nicole Morris, Nicole with an H, to book a preconception consultation with me. Thanks for joining me today. Stay informed and God bless.